with his two sisters, whose names were Mary and Martha, as I recall. Anyway, in the past few months, there had been a lot of interest being generated by a young itinerant Jewish teacher and prophet named Jesus from the city of Nazareth in the region of Galilee. This Jesus was beginning to develop quite a following of people who were moved by his teachings, people who had been healed by him, or people who with their very own eyes had seen him heal others. This Jesus traveled around the area, and he had 12 students that went with him. And as they traveled through this kind of an area, they often stayed at the home of Lazarus and his two sisters. Later, it happened while Jesus was several days' journey from our village. Lazarus took seriously ill. My master reached in with other friends and neighbors, and they tried to help the sisters care for him. But his condition grew worse. It was then the sisters sent for Jesus to come. Unfortunately, Lazarus died before Jesus could return. Upon his arrival, Lazarus had already been dead 4 days. In the midst of their grief, the sisters blamed Jesus, for they said if only he'd been there, perhaps he could have saved their brother. Now begins the amazing part. For while I thought this to be the end of things, it turned out to be the beginning of even greater things. In the presence of many people, including my master Jeremiah, Jesus went to the tomb, and with words of prayer, he commanded Lazarus to come back to life. Can you imagine what a commotion ensued? Now, you folks all know what barnyard gossip can do with just trivial matters. Can you imagine the excitement that this generated in our small village, spread throughout the land and all the way to Jerusalem? After that, Jeremiah seemed to be like a different kind of a man. I mean, he'd always been a moral and just man, but now he seemed to be re-examining what was at the core of his own Jewish faith, with all its laws, regulations, images, and expectations he tried so hard to keep. He did a lot of reading, thinking, and performing acts of compassion for others. It seemed as if he were taking this religion of law that the Pharisees had taught him and holding it up to this religion of love of which Jesus spoke. Now, admittedly, we donkeys don't know much about this matter, for our Creator didn't give us a spiritual nature. But I, for one, never did care much for those pious scrollworms, the Pharisees. Their teachings always did seem to be like just a bunch of manure to me. And that is something on which I am an authority. Jeremiah took every opportunity he could to learn more about this young Nazarene, for Jesus certainly was a different kind of teacher. He not only taught with words, he taught by how he lived. Well, that brings you up to date on the events leading up to my meeting with Jesus and my very special day. It happened like this. My mother and I were tied up along the main street of the village. Master Jeremiah was not too far away. He was talking with a group of his friends, and they were talking about the excitement of the huge Passover crowd and how many were expecting Jesus to ride into Jerusalem and declare himself to be king. Many people expected that, and many more were hoping so. Now, I don't care much for those pompous and oppressive Romans either. Politically, I have zealot leanings myself. We donkeys aren't all Democrats, you know. As Mother and I waited patiently, we saw two men coming down the road leading into town. As they approached, one of them nudged the other and pointed to my mother and me. At that, my big, tall ears perked up, and I heard him say, "That must be the donkey in the foal the Master spoke of." And then they walked right up to us as if we belonged to them. They began to untie our knee ropes. About that time, Master Jeremiah glanced over and he saw what was happening. He walked over and he put his hand firmly on one of the men's shoulders and said, "What do you think you're doing untying this donkey and this foal?" As the man turned to reply, I could see my master's face, and he had a puzzled look on it, as if he were struggling to recall someone who looked vaguely familiar. "The master has need of them, and will return them directly," came the reply. "Master? Yes, indeed, we donkeys have masters, but do humans also? Were these men implying that my master has a master?" And then I recognized who they were. They were two of those students of Jesus. About the same time, Master Jeremiah recognized who they were also. For without any further ado, he released his grip on that man's shoulder, and he reached out to grasp each of their hands in a firm handshake. And he said, "What the master has need of, I am glad to give." So, down the road towards Jerusalem went my mother and I, following the lead of these two men. Familiar with animals? I should say they were not. They rather seemed to be out of their element. However, not given to stubbornness, contrary to what you might think, we obliged them and soon arrived inside of the walled city. There I saw Jesus, first surrounded by his disciples, then by hundreds of other Jewish pilgrims. The going became rather slow, but since the people wore sandals, they were quick to move their feet out from under our hoofs. As we were being led to Jesus, the crowd began to grow excited. Some of them began to take off their coats, placed them on my back and on my mother's back. Would Jesus ride into Jerusalem on one of us? Surely not me, for I had never been ridden by a human before. I knew I was strong enough and old enough, that I was unbroken and untested. Surely Jesus would ride on the back of my mother. But then he walked over to me. He stroked my muzzle, ran his strong, calloused hand down my mane, and gently transferred his weight to my back. I was to be the one. I was to be the one to carry this great teacher, possibly even king, into Jerusalem. As we started our ascent up towards the city, the people began to grow more and more excited. They began to spread their coats on the street. They began to cut down branches and spread them on the road, the same as they would do for a returning, conquering king. They began to shout phrases such as, "Hosanna," which means "save now." "Praise be to David's son. God bless the one who comes in the name of the Lord." As I looked around, I could see some of the sour-faced Pharisees standing there, and I don't think they were too pleased with this misplaced religious enthusiasm. I don't think they cared much for Jesus stealing the show from them. One of them even walked over to Jesus and said, "Teacher, command your disciples to be quiet." Jesus turned, gave him a look that put him in his place, and said, "If they keep quiet, the stones themselves will begin to shout." "God bless the King of Israel," shouted the people. My mother, walking several steps ahead of me, turned around and gave me a look that filled me with confidence. Now I know the cheers weren't for me. The palm branches weren't spread for my hooves. Yet still I felt very special about having been chosen for this special task. How fortunate I was, I thought, that this very first ride of mine be given to such a special person. After what seemed like no time at all, we arrived at the gate to the city. There Jesus stopped me, got down off my back, stroked my muzzle again, this time as if to say, "Well done, faithful one, but the rest of this journey I must walk myself." And then he disappeared into the crowd, and I was led back to the stable so familiar to me. On the return trip, many questions crossed my mind. Why me? A lowly donkey, an animal of peace.